Alright, so last time we talked about some scatter plots and some stuff like that. Okay, and we talked a little bit about correlation. We're going to continue that, and I'm going to show you how you can get that information from the calculator as well, okay, of a line of best fit. Okay, we'll do that some more to kind of remind ourselves. So, correlations. When we're talking about a correlation, there's essentially what you can have. You can have a strong correlation, a weak correlation, a positive or a negative. Okay? Something that has no correlation would look like this one. Notice how the dots are kind of all over the place. But notice as we go here to the left, the dots kind of get closer and closer together, and they're kind of going down. Okay? This would be a negative correlation. Okay, there's positive and negative. Now the way they talk about correlation, they have a correlational coefficient. It's called the R number. Okay, that number you can use to figure out exactly. But the way it goes from 0 to positive 1 and 0 to negative 1. So from negative 1 to positive 1. Okay? From here, no correlation would be 0. Something like this where it's an exact straight line would be a negative 1 correlation. Okay, as you go from 0 to negative 1, these get from weak to strong. Okay? And that negative correlation is dealing with, as something goes up, something else goes down. Okay? Just any sort of correlation between something like that, like say your bank account. As the weeks go, your bank account gets smaller and smaller because you're spending money and you're not earning any money. Okay? And so we've got the strong to weak. We also have it for positive. That would be the no correlation. This one, notice it's going in the positive direction, so it would be a positive 1. So in between 0 and positive 1, we have all these levels of weak to stronger to a perfect 1, strong. So, that may be like a 0.5 correlation, maybe 0.75, maybe 0.25, something like that. So they use the decimals in between to kind of rate those correlations. So you've got that whole range from 0 to a positive 1, 0 to a negative 1. At negative 1 it's strong, at positive 1 it's strong. At 0, either way, positive or negative, it's weaker. The weaker it gets, the closer it gets to 0. And that's the negative side and the positive side. Okay? So that's just a little something about those correlations that you can look at and try to rate how well they're doing. Okay? Now, what you need to make sure is that you guys have your calculators. So if you need to pause it and get all your calculators, you do not need to log into them. We are just going to be using the calculators to make sure we know how to plot these and deal with them that way. Okay? Because on the SAGE test, when you're given that information, you want to be able to use a calculator at the best of your ability. Get the best score that you possibly can. So remember, look up at the board, see what date you have that SAGE test. Make sure you are ready for it. You've got that SAGE online practice. You can do that. Remember, you could get some extra credit for doing that. But that's just a way to get you ready for that SAGE test so you guys can do well. Okay? So, let's go from here. So you should all have your calculators. If you don't, make sure it gets paused. Get your calculators. Okay, I'm going to use some screenshots and have you guys kind of follow along at where you should be. Okay, so make sure it's turned on. If it's at a document, click Home so you get to this screen right here. Okay, the home screen. Alright, and we're going to go to the new document. So either use the touchpad, right, hit number 1, or use the mouse to get yourself there. Click on New Document. If it asks you to save, hit No. Then what we want to do is, whenever you're using these calculators to deal with data, we need to put the data into the calculator. So the first thing you want to choose is a list in a spreadsheet. Okay, that's where we want to go to. So go Home, New Document, don't save it, Add, List in Spreadsheet, which should look, something like this. This guy right here. Okay? Now, we are going to put 2 pieces of information in here, and I've got some data that I gathered last year about absences and grades. Because remember, we're making a scatter plot. with the two variables. And making a scatter plot, we want to find a correlation. Is there a correlation between absences and grades? How does that affect us? Okay, so make sure when you go up in here that you go to the tag, not the equal sign, and write attendance or attend and grade in the other one. Okay, that's how you want to label them. Now, I've got some data here that you guys can copy down in here. Okay, so you're going to be copying this down. My suggestion would be to kind of do it one at a time, one column at a time. I'll try to leave it up so you have enough time to get it in. But it won't let you, for some reason, when you hit enter right here, it won't let you move to the right. It'll want you to go down. So I'd, get those 5, then maybe get those 5, and go that way. But we're putting everything into these two columns, okay? So make sure, like this, that they're in the same spot, or else it'll throw everything off. Okay? So if you need it paused, ask the substitute to pause it for you so that you can make sure to get all the information in there. So regardless of which one you use, so there's your first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of information. Okay. Now there's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and almost 18. Make sure you're getting this information in. I want you doing this all together on the calculator. So if you need to ask for the video to be rewound, to moved back so you can get that other piece of information, that's fine. Okay, let's get everybody's in there. Help each other out if you're lost. Okay, so if you don't all have it, hit pause. I'm going to move it up. So 18, 19, 20. So you should have 21 pieces of information. So if you need it, again, make sure you're asking somebody to hit pause so you guys can get that information for all of your columns. Okay? And it should look like this. Okay, between 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 to 20, and to 21. Make sure you guys have all that information. If you need to, again, have it paused so you can get all of that written in. Okay? I'm going to move on now. Okay, so now once you have all that information put in, now we can start to do something with it. Okay? So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add a new page. To add a new page, notice how it says plus page right there, okay, on the dock button. So you're going to hit Control, which once you hit Control, then you can hit that dock button. That's going to add a new page. And the page you want to add is Data and Statistics. Okay? That's the page you want to have there. Alright. So you should end up having 2 tabs. And if you put your information in, you should have a bunch of dots. Now, they may not look like mine at first. They may be kind of more random. It just kind of places them anywhere. So now, what we need to do is we need to add a variable. So click and add a variable. You could start out by adding grade. You could start out by adding attendance. And you should see your dots will start to move and shape up. Okay? So we went to that second page, Data and Statistics. Add the variable. We put grade down. Now, oh, did I miss a... Oh, nope, I didn't. Okay. Now, if you only wanted to do like a box plot or a histogram or a dot plot, you only need one variable. Okay. So if you hit Menu, right? Menu's right here. If you hit Menu, that'll bring up plot type. If you get on plot type, you can choose a box plot, histogram, dot plot. That's only with one variable. Okay, one of our columns. And we could do this with each column and plot these out and see the information, and that would be great. Okay, but we're dealing with a scatter plot. For a scatter plot, X, Y line plot, we need 2 pieces of information. Okay, 2 variables. So you can go and make your other variable attendance, okay, and it should look something like this. Now, I'd actually ask you to make your attendance the X and your Y the grade, because I like that visual better. You can do it with both, but it'll be slightly different than mine. So if we look at this, thinking back to the correlation, do we see a correlation here? Yeah, it looks like it's kind of going down in this direction, right? So it would be a positive or negative? It would be a negative correlation. How strong is it? Okay, well, if we kind of use those other ones to compare with, okay, we can take a look and see it's kind of, I'd say probably somewhere in between here. So maybe about 0.5, something like that. A negative 0.5 maybe correlation. Okay, that tells us that the more absent you are, the more likely that your grade is not going to be very good, right? Okay, that's what a correlation is all about. Now, we could try to sit here and draw a line of best fit and try to match with our data. The reason we'd want a line of best fit is so we could make predictions. Like, well, what if I have 12 absences? Most likely, what's my grade going to be? Okay, for some of you, it may be, what's the maximum amount of absences that I can have and still most likely get a passing grade? Hopefully that's not the way you think, but who knows? So, if you go to the menu again, right? The menu is right here. You click on the menu, it'll bring up this stuff right here. Okay, we don't want plot type this time. This time we want to go to number 4, Analyze. So if you go to Analyze, then you're going to go down. You could add a movable line, but we want them to do it for us. Okay, so don't choose that one. Go to Regression. Regression is a fancy name for line of best fit. Okay, like we did on the last time's homework, you just kind of guessed at those lines and tried to draw them yourself. Here we're going to get the calculator to do it for us. Okay, so once you click on regression, notice that there's a lot of different regressions. Now 2 of these, I should say 3 of these, should be something we've dealt with. Exponentials and linear. Okay, exponential, remember, is a times b to the x. It gives us 2 linears because it gives us a linear format that was kind of how we dealt with when we did the explicit equations from sequences, and that looks a lot like the exponential. However, mx plus b, that's the slope-intercept. So choose that one, and you should see what your line's going to look like. Okay, you should see something like this. So here's the calculator telling us what our line is. There's that line of best fit for a good prediction. Okay, and it tells us the actual equation in slope-intercept form. So it's basically y equals negative 3.1x plus 88.1. Okay, they obviously didn't round like we did, but it's a slope-intercept form. So we can use that to figure information out. So let's say we wanted to decide, if I have 16 absences, most likely what is my grade going to be? Well, right about here, right, looks like maybe about 40%. Well, we could plug that into our equation here and solve it. I could go negative 3.08795 times 16 plus 88.053. That gives me 38.64. So most likely, according to this class, you would get a 38%, which isn't very good. Okay, you want to be lumped up in this group here. Okay, so don't miss many days. All right. So that's a way that we use those lines of best fit to help us understand and see what's going on. Okay. All right. So there we go with that. Okay. Now, not all, like we saw over here, not all regressions are linear. And since we've dealt with exponential, let's take a look at exponential. So if you want to follow along, which you should, go back to your 1.1. Okay? You're going to go and erase all these. Now there's an easy way to erase it. If you put your cursor right here and press up, it'll highlight the whole column. Then you can hit delete on the calculator, get rid of everything. Okay? So you can do that, and then go in, and then we're going to do with years and population. Okay? So this is years and population of Utah. Now notice my first column says 0 instead of 1850. Typically when you're dealing with years, you don't want to have to write 1850. So that first year would be 0, and then we're going up 10 years, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and I believe we go clear down to 160. Okay, so put those years in like that, and then you can put your population in as it is, okay, in line with that. So if you need to, have it paused, have everybody at least catch up to that point, and now I'm going to move it up so we can get some more in. Okay, so there was our first 60, so now this is 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140. So make sure you get it paused so you can get all that data in for your calculator. Okay, once everybody's done, now I'm going to move it up. Okay, for those last two, so you can get those ones. So that was what, 150 and 160. Okay, it'll work a lot better if you do it that way instead of trying to do the other stuff. Okay, you should all have that. Whoops, meant to erase that. So make sure you have all those in. If you need to hurry and double check, you know, here it is again. Okay. Alright, so then you will go back to the 1.2 tab, and you'll need to change your variables to year and population. And when you do, you should see this equation, or this graph. Now, if you look at that, you should notice it looks very much exponentially, right? Not really like a linear. If you try to draw a linear, it would be hard to capture that data. Okay, so that's why we have the different regressions. So you go back to Analyze, you'll hit Menu, right? Menu, then go to Analyze, then Regression, okay, then Show Exponential. Okay, we're not dealing with linear this time. You could do it to look at it, but we're doing exponential. Once we hit that, then you should see your equation, right, in that exponential format. So that's our y-intercept. That's what we're multiplying by. So basically every year we're growing by 102%, 103%. Okay, and we could use this model to help predict, okay, 160 was 2010, what about 2020? Okay, when we get to 170, what could be going on here? Okay, where would we see, what's that population going to look like? Okay, that's a good way to predict it, to see what's going on. Now, if you used that linear regression, your line would have ended up right here. Okay, that's a far cry away from there. So that's why that exponential does a better job at seeing what we've got. Okay, so you guys have that homework packet, the line of best fit. You should have plenty of time to get it done. Okay, so work on that. Most of the problems are pretty quick. Use the calculators on those scatter plot ones to help you do that part if you need to. I do want these turned in by the end of school, especially for, which period is it? For, let's see, especially for third period, because you guys are going to be doing a SAGE test on the 14th. Second period, you can take them home and bring them back, that's fine. But for third period, you should have plenty of time, get them done, and you should be good to go there. Alrighty guys, so there you go. Get that stuff done. And good luck, and we'll see you next time.